How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family. This is a popcorn video to me, some portions of it. Wow, I have a couple of videos to play the royal family, but first I'm going to jump into this article that I found on News One. Delusional white men attack Nancy Pelosi over ripping Trump's SOTU speech, State of the Union speech, while ignoring his racist antics. Pelosi said ripping Donald Trump's State of the Union speech was the courteous thing to do. Well, I'm going to read the whole article. Let me get my other computer here. Just so y'all won't be bored looking at some words, I'll put it back here. She was ripping that shit up. She was pissed. Trump is sickening. Now he's going around gloating. Donald Trump's white man barrage of supporters have feverishly showed their inept ability to pick and choose what ruffles their feathers as it pertains to his racist antics. Those who challenge said antics and everyone who tries to hold him accountable. Trump gave his third State of the Union speech Tuesday night, which began with him snubbing House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Handshake included devout racist Rush Limbaugh being honored with the nation's highest civil honor. I didn't understand that one at all. The Presidential Medal of Freedom, and concluded with Nancy ripping up Trump's State of the Union speech. And of course, white men railed together on social media channel to turn a blind eye to all but Pelosi tearing the manuscript in half. One supporter who deemed Pelosi a disgrace, Twitter ripped up the copies of the State of the Union address to the American people was not only shameful, but made her look like a complete disgrace in front of all the citizens watching. Isn't this ironic? All the antics that Trump pulled, and now somebody tearing up some paper, they're a disgrace. And this dude gonna continue to be a disgrace. Another wrote, I hope Nancy. Boy, the way these people put these words together is amazing. I'm gonna say it again. Another wrote, I sure hope Nancy, I suck at my job, has property outside of outside of this country. She should be fired and exported. Okay, I'll leave it right there. That's how I'm reading it, family. Following the State of the Union, Pelosi stood behind her decision to rip up Trump's speech. The manifesto of mistruths presented in page after page of the address tonight should be a call to action for everyone who expects truth from the president and policies worthy of his office and American people, she said in a statement. The American people expect and deserve a president to have integrity and respect for the aspirations for their children. After leaving the House floor, Pelosi said she ripped the pages because it was the courteous thing to do, considering the alternative, according to NBC News. However, these same chauvinistic took no issue with Trump honoring Rush Limbaugh, whose legacy largely include making racist comments with the same medal given to Rosa Parks and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They were specifically vocal about Pelosi choosing to remain seated with Limbaugh was given the honor. That was another disgraceful moment. Rush Limbaugh inspired millions of people and still does to this day. New Orleans Congressman Steve Salas said, Salas continued, everybody should have stood for that. It shows. I think it makes them look little as a party when they don't do that. Yeah, some people literally didn't show up. Some people literally walked out of their disgust of Trump. Author Billy Holloway called Pelosi's actions, oh Lord, I have a hard time pronouncing this word, egregious. That's the best I can do it. Nancy Pelosi isn't standing for Rush Limbaugh, and frankly, it's appalling. It's appalling. He has cancer. This isn't some political thing. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, now we're supposed to feel some kind of way when somebody has a disease, a terminal disease. But when it comes to anybody else, they don't give a damn about nobody's plain and plight. As nasty as Rush Limbaugh has been and will continue to be, now we're supposed to feel some kind of way. They got us fucked up. Trump's racist actions have exceeded far beyond championing other races. He has insulted other races and countries. He's attacked the NFL players who protest against systemic racism. He said that many sides are to blame for the white supremacist attacks in Charlottesville. And let's not forget in 2016 when he spoke to black voters and said, you're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose? Yet and still, Trump supporters shout and tweet his name proudly. And when Trump really stick it to America, like I said, those ones who extremely like him, extremely love him, watch how it goes to extremely hate him, and they will fall out of love with him as we continue on. So I got a little video here. I'm going to show y'all this first video. Then I got a bonus one pertaining to this mess. So I want to hear what Nancy has to say at her weekly press conference.
Good morning, everyone. I just got back from the prayer breakfast, so let's all be very prayerful. As you know, this week we had the State of the Union as required by the Constitution of the United States. The President is to submit in writing or in person his statement of the State of the Union. What happened instead was the President using the Congress of the United States as a backdrop for a reality show, presenting a state of mind that had no contact with reality whatsoever. It was quite appalling to hear the President say to the 150 at least million families in America that are faced with pre-existing medical conditions about a benefit that is afforded to them in the Affordable Care Act, that he was protecting that benefit, when in fact he has done everything to dismantle it. In fact, we are fighting him in the courts right now to preserve that benefit. That misrepresentation was appalling and so clearly untrue. Next, he talked about another issue of concern to America's working families, the issue of the cost of prescription drugs. As I've said to you before, I've seen grown men cry across the country when it comes to the fact that they cannot afford the prescription drugs and meet their other obligations to their families. And we had talked about negotiating for lower prices. That's the only way you're going to get lower prices. During the campaign, the President said he was going to negotiate like crazy. I think like crazy means maybe not at all. I've said that to you before, because the President's statements have sent pharma stocks soaring. and for him to represent that he was working on that. We had been working on it. We were hopeful to get something done. I guess Farmer must have stepped in. And then he talked about saving Medicare and Social Security, when in fact, in his budget, the 220 budget that he submitted, $2 trillion were decreased in Medicare and Medicaid combined, including to, in terms of Social Security, reduce the disability benefit in Social Security. So these, one after another, right to the kitchen table of America's working families to serve up these falsehoods. What appalling also was when he was trying to discredit the triumph of the Obama administration on the economy. And I've given you a paper on this put out by the Joint Economic Committee under leadership of Don Beyer, our House Vice Chair, on that. And it talks about all the things, job creation and the rest. But to succinctly put it, when President Obama came into office, the unemployment rate was 10%. When he left, it was 5%. So President Trump did not inherit a mess. He inherited a momentum of job creation. When President Obama came into office, the stock market was at 6,000. When he left, it was at 18,000. Again, momentum that the administration was able to build on, not a mess. During the 8 years of President Obama's presidency, he reduced the deficit by $1 trillion. Instead, this administration is increasing the $1 trillion. And of course, with their tax scam for 83% of the benefits going to the top 1%, they increased the national debt by $2 trillion. And therefore, they tried to it's supposed to pay for itself, but instead they went to Medicare and Medicaid to try to pay for that. But we're not doing that. And then during the 8 years of when President Bush was president, the job growth was slow. Under President Obama, we gained more than 14 million private sector jobs. And during his presidency, more than, and that is far more in a prorated in terms of years than what this president has created. A momentum, a path of $14 million is not a mess, Mr. President. And then during his presidency, we rescued the auto industry and all that brought back to the economy. And during the administration, more than 20 million people were afforded quality, affordable health care. But more, in addition to that, 150 million families with pre-existing conditions got a new benefit that enabled them to have access to health care, as well as other benefits of no lifetime limit, no annual limit. Child is up until 26 years old can stay on your benefit. Being a woman, no longer pre-existing condition. So when he talks about, oh, I'm going to make health care, the fact is he did not inherit a mess. He inherited a momentum of growth in our economy. And many more statistics are in what I hope you will read, because it was appalling to hear him try to take credit for something that and call what President Obama did a mess that he inherited, when in fact it was a great advantage to the country that President Obama's policies took us to that very positive place of growth and of job creation and deficit reduction. And I talk to my members and they have ideas. I always say, what does your idea do for growth, for creation of good paying jobs, and reducing the deficit? Let's see how it meets those standards. What the president has done is not that. And so for him to make it as if he did all this stuff and all the rest, he still hasn't even matched President Obama's growth in the stock market, if you call that a real measure of success. And in some respects, it's a good indicator, but it's not an indicator of what is happening at the kitchen tables of America's working families, where they're concerned about the fact that many of them have not received a raise in a very long time. that 40% of them could not find $500 for an emergency. The president goes on and saying, oh, it took many more, because of Walmart growth, many more people are not on food stamps. No, you kicked them off. I know people are not taking advantage of this. No, you kicked them off. And that just isn't a fair thing to do in our economy. So it was, in my view, a manifesto of mistruths, of falsehoods, blatantly, really dangerous to the well-being of the American people if they believed what he said. So again, we do not want the chamber of the House of Representatives to be used as a backdrop for one of his reality shows with unreality in his presentation. And by the way, a serious breach to start shouting 4 more years on the floor of the House. Totally inappropriate. We're very excited about how we're going forward to honor our promises to the American people. For the people, we're going to lower the cost of health care by lowering the cost of prescription drugs. And we're on our path with H.R. 3. So people holding up the 3, H.R. 3, maybe just 3 benefits from the people should know. That it will lower the cost of prescription drugs for them. It will also increase benefits in Medicare, dental, hearing, and vision, and the expansion of Medicare, which is the biggest expansion since its inception. That benefit will apply to not only Medicare, the reduction in costs will not only apply to Medicare, but to all of the insurance plans for prescription drugs. We're very excited about H.R. 3. Lower healthcare costs by lowering the cost of prescription drugs and protecting the pre-existing medical condition benefit. Secondly, bigger paychecks, building the infrastructure of America in a green, resilient way. We thought we were in a good place on both of those scores with the president because we had negotiated with the White House on H.R. 3 until the president decided to go with pharma instead of with the American people. We thought we were in a good path in negotiating with the administration on what the infrastructure bill would contain. Last night he talked about rural broadband. He didn't even know what that was when we were first talking about it. So it's just roads and stuff, roads, bridges, water, broadband, and the rest. And so bigger paychecks by doing, he talked about some mini plan. He sent over a $200 billion plan, which he then said is a bad plan. It is. It's too small, put too much burden on the localities. So we have really important. And then, of course, our third agenda, lower healthcare costs, bigger paychecks, cleaner government. We think we have a shot with them on the first 2, but not on the third, cleaner government. No, that's not something that he or the Republicans have as a value. So yesterday the Senate acted, first time in history that a senator has voted against his own president in a decision regarding impeachment. God bless him for his courage. This morning the president said when people use faith as an excuse to do, I don't know if he said bad things, but whatever he said, it was just so completely inappropriate, especially at a prayer breakfast. So again, we will be expanding what we talked about before about our infrastructure bill, surface transportation, water systems, broadband, rural broadband, urban desert broadband, very important to health, education, commerce, and the rest of our country. And then we'll go further with our initiatives on infrastructure for school construction, and some housing initiatives and initiatives that relate to the needs of our veterans. We'll be unfolding some of that in the week ahead. So we continue to do our work. 275 or more bipartisan bills on Mitch McConnell's desk. The Grim Reaper has not taken any of them up. If he had one, I wish he would I have my bullet here, I wish he would do background check legislation, which would save lives. So it is an interesting time as we go forward. We'll also be taking up in the next week the ERA, the legislation related to the ERA, and there's a great deal of excitement across the country. You see what happened in Virginia, and we're hoping to move the date to include that new state and that number to promote women, especially in this year when we observe the 100th anniversary of women having the right to vote. I know what you're going to say, Chad. What happened to the 49ers?
I'll ask them.
Yeah, but just when you're thinking of it, think about your own team, okay?
Well, we're going to get the first round draft.
Well, there's always that. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
You just mentioned things like prescription drugs and whole structure.
Yes.
What do you think is the likelihood of being able to work with President on these things, given what at least appears to be a strained relationship?
Well, we've had a strained relationship for a while, and we were able to keep government open and push back on his threats to shut down government if we didn't do this and we didn't do that, and that's right. And I was very proud of the work in a bipartisan way of our appropriators. Left to their own devices, you've heard me say, they can really work things out, and we did, and we pushed back on any threats of shutdown. So we worked together on that. We worked together on the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. He bragged about delivering it. I don't know if he even knows what's in it because it's so far different of whatever he sent us to begin with, but it does have what I've said to you many times. It does have a framework of enforcement for protection of our workers, protection of our environment, and getting rid of his gift to pharma. Imagine he had a gift to pharma in that trade agreement. Well, we kicked that out. Just another example of his beholdenness to the pharmaceutical industry. So we've got two major things accomplished. These are things the president said he wanted to do: reduce the cost of prescription drugs and build the infrastructure during the campaign. Especially infrastructure. I hardly ever had a conversation with him when he wasn't talking about infrastructure. I think he really wants that. I think he knows our country needs that, and I hope that we were almost there, and until it was time to pay for it, and then he was like out the door.
So you don't think anything's changed because of impeachment?
Well, that would be up to him. It certainly hasn't changed in terms of us. As people said to me, why would you give him the victory on the trade agreement? I said, it's not a victory for him not to do that for the benefit it provides for our farmers, our manufacturers, our workers, and our country, our hemisphere. But I think would be wrong. I mean, he just wasn't that important that we would walk away from what they were conceding to us. But they were conceding to us in that legislation. If we didn't get what we want, we couldn't go that path. But we did. Now, did we get everything? No, it was a negotiation. But it's a path to much better trade agreements, and I'm pleased we did it. Yes, Jen.
Thank you. The White House Communications Director has indicated that the President and maybe others in the administration may want to have some payback for what the impeachment and what the Senate did here. When you hear that sort of language, and as we speak, the U.S. Capitol Police are investigating a suspicious package getting the substance in the office of Congressman Schiff.
Oh, no. Well, I don't think that has anything to do with the White House.
But when you hear that, rather, from the White House, and in these types of environments, I mean, what does that make you think?
Well, let me just say that language is, first of all, the whole State of the Union was beneath the dignity of the White House, an insult to the Congress of the United States and the American people. So their language is nothing that surprises anyone. But they have to know when the White House speaks, those words weigh a ton. And they are giving encouragement to people to do things. Just as, remember, Charlottesville, people were coming down that hill with tiki torches saying, the Jews will not replace us, the Jews will not replace us. And what was the president's statement? They're good people on both sides. Really? The Jews will not replace us and the good people on both sides? So there's a mysterious view that they have about what their words, the weight their words carry. And there are people out there who, for whatever purpose, I know I'm constantly, I don't want to even go into the target that I am because of them, but I can't worry about that. But that was there even before them. Just working with President Obama stirred up some of those same people. But I would like to think that it had nothing to do with what the White House was saying. But I do think they should rein in their comments. Because what they're saying is they're going to be payback to us for upholding the Constitution of the United States, for honoring the vision of our founders, for a democracy, a republic if we can keep it. for something our men and women in uniform fight to protect our freedom, our Constitution, and the aspirations of our children that depend on living in a democracy that is unquestioned in terms of that, where we have freedom of the press to be guardians of that democracy. So, I'm not very fond of commenting on anything they say, but if it's threatening, it's wrong.
Several members of the various House investigative committees have indicated that they would like to subpoena John Bolton. What's your position on that, and when should it happen?
I want to first salute our managers. I think they did a magnificent job in presenting the case for our founders, for our Constitution, for our country. We could not have been better served. Each and every one of them did a magnificent job, and Adam Schiff's leadership was a blessing to our country. I'm proud of the work that the Senate did in terms of their response to all of this and their unanimous vote on the House Democrats in support of our Constitution. We are now, the Senate has spoken in terms of any punishment to the president. He's impeached forever, no matter what he says or whatever headlines he wants to carry around. You're impeached forever. You're never getting rid of that scar. And history will always record that you were impeached for undermining the security of our country, jeopardizing the integrity of our elections, and violating the Constitution of the United States. Our purpose in all of this, in addition to holding him accountable so he stops doing what he's doing and no future president thinks that she or he could have liberty to take us away from a republic, if you can keep it, to a Second Amendment enables me to do whatever I want. No, that's not what our Constitution is about. So we will continue to do our oversight to protect and defend the Constitution, which is three co-equal branches of government, each a check and balance on the other. And we have some cases in court now, McCann and taxes and that will take time. We didn't need to have that come to a fruition because we had a strong enough case to impeach and remove. But those cases still exist. If there are others that we see as an opportunity, we'll make a judgment at that time. But we have no plans right now. Yes, ma'am.
Could you describe what you were thinking this morning as the president said that impeachment was a terrible ordeal put through by corrupt, dishonest people, by which you and other Democrats, and also his suggestion that you don't actually pray for him?
I don't know if the president understands about prayer or people who do pray. But we do pray for the United States of America. I pray for him. I pray for President Bush, still President Obama, because it's a heavy responsibility. And I pray hard for him because he's so off the track of our Constitution, our values, our country, the air our children breathe, the water they drink, and the rest. He really needs our prayers. So he can say whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants, but I do pray for him, and I do so sincerely and without anguish, gently. That's the way I pray for everybody else. I thought what he said about Senator Romney was particularly without class. What did he say? There's some people who use faith as an excuse to do the wrong things. You remember what he said about Romney? You have that there? It's so inappropriate at a prayer breakfast. You want to go to the prayer breakfast, prayer in the school, vouchers, women's right to choose, all those things that's a right audience for. God bless you. It's a prayer breakfast, and that's something about faith. It may not be something I agree with, but it's appropriate. But to go into the stock market and raising up his little thing and mischaracterizing other people's motivation, he's talking about things that he knows little about, faith and prayer. Yes, ma'am.
You often counsel your members to be dignified in their response,
yes,
to take the high ground. Did you step on that message by tearing up?
No, I did not. No, I did not. I tore up a manifesto of mistruths. It's very hard for us to get you to talk about the issues that we are working on, HR 3, infrastructure, and the rest. He misrepresented all of that. was necessary to get the attention of the American people to say, this is not true, and this is how it affects you. And I don't need any lessons from anybody, especially the President of the United States, about dignity. Dignity. Is it okay to start saying 4 more years in the House of Representatives? But it's just unheard of. Is it unheard of for the president to insult people there who don't share his view, as well as to misrepresent, present falsehoods? Some would use the word lie. I don't like to use the word lie about what he is saying. So, no, I think it was completely, entirely appropriate. And considering some of the other exuberances within me, the courteous thing to do.
Yes, sir. I think if you pause, I know you'd like another president, but to invite him back for a State of the Union, given what you're describing.
Well, next year we will have a new president of the United States. That is an absolute imperative for our country, for our Constitution, for the land that we love from sea to shining sea, which he degrades almost every day, but several times a week, for who we are as a people, a nation of immigrants, unless you're blessed to be born a Native American, a nation of whom he denigrates, and for our values, which he just is disloyal to the Constitution, degrades the environment, denigrates who we are as a people, and undervalues who we are as a great country that is a good country where people care about each other and where there's a sense of community. It's appalling, the things that he says, and then you say to me, tearing up his falsehoods, isn't that the wrong message? No, it isn't. It's just, I have tried to be gracious with him. I'm always dignified. I thought that was a very dignified act compared to my exuberances, as I said. But we will not allow any president to use that Capitol, that chamber of the House of Representatives, of the People's House, as a backdrop for him. Now, all presidents have guests, constant guests. That was not a State of the Union. That was his state of mind. We want a State of the Union. Where are we? Where are we going? And the rest. Now, let me just show you how many guests I can draw. And let me say how I can give a Medal of Honor. Do it in your own office. We don't come in your office and do congressional business. Why are you doing that here? Quite frankly, when he started talking about someone with stage 4 cancer, all of that, I thought he was, I don't know which stage John Lewis's cancer is at, but when he started talking about someone with cancer, we thought he was going to talk about John Lewis. A hero in our country? Come on. So in any event, I feel very liberated. I feel very liberated. I feel that I've extended every possible courtesy. I've shown every level of respect. I say to my members all the time, there's no such thing as an eternal animosity. There are eternal friendships, but you never know on what cause you may come together with somebody who may be perceived as your foe right now. Everybody is a possible ally in whatever comes next. E pluribus unum, from any one. They didn't know how many we'd be or how different we'd be, but they want us always to remember that we were one. And they, our founders, had their differences, as do we. So again, I extended the hand of friendship to him, to welcome him as the President of the United States, to the People's House. It was also an act of kindness because he looked to me like he was a little sedated. He looked that way last year too, but he didn't want to shake hands. That meant nothing to me. It had nothing to do with my tearing up. That came much later, and I'm a speed reader. I just went right through that thing. So I knew what was coming when I saw the compilation of falsehoods. But then when I heard like the first quarter or third, then I started to think there has to be something that clearly indicates to the American people that this is not the truth. And he has shredded the truth in his speech. He's shredding the Constitution in his conduct. I shredded his State of his Mind address. Thank you all very much.
All right, my royal family. I enjoyed listening to that, my royal family, and that was the first time I heard it. And gives you a state of mind of what's going on with Nancy Pelosi and what she has to deal with being in her position. I do not feel sorry for what's going to happen to the Democratic Party. They still have not done right by us. And, I will and others will continue to talk about that. So let me stay on point. So the bonus video. So when I started out, delusional white men attacked Nancy Pelosi over ripping Trump's State of the Union speech while ignoring his racist antics. Well, check this out. I'm just going to play it. It speaks for itself.
Congressman Gates, you actually want to take a pretty aggressive step here. What is it?
Okay.
Tomorrow, Laura, I will be filing charges against Nancy Pelosi in the House Ethics Committee. She disgraced the House of Representatives, she embarrassed our country, and she destroyed official records. The law does not allow the Speaker of the House to destroy the records of the House, and the rules of the House do not permit some little temper tantrum just because you don't like what the President of the United States says. And you know what? A lot of Republicans are sick of the double standard here. When Joe Wilson made a comment, an excited utterance, oh, the Democrats really brought the heat down on him when he said that Obama lied about illegals getting health care under Obamacare. By the way, Joe Wilson was right, but we ought to apply the same standards to the Democrats that they want to apply to us, and there will be an ethics investigation of Nancy Pelosi, and we will start the ball rolling to have her censured, and the first act begins tomorrow when Congressman Zeldin and I will join Kay Granger in a censure resolution, and we will force a vote on that resolution.
Well, you don't have the majority in the House. I heard today that, well, it's not really a formal record because it's a copy of the speech the president signed. I heard murmurs that this is cute, but it's not really going to work, Congressman.
Well, to Matt's point about what happened to Joe Wilson, the House passed a resolution naming names. Right, the double standard, the moral equivalency, we saw it happen this time last year when Ilhan Omar came in and they were making the comments that were anti-Semitic. We saw different standards applied. If she was a Republican, she would have been named, they would have named names and they would have thrown her off her committees. But no, it's different because she's a Democrat. Now, she should be censured. It was a disgrace. It was an embarrassment. Basically, from the inside out, Nancy Pelosi has been poisoned. She is now poisoning the House of Representatives and Congress and our country because it started off with her getting rolled by her far left, which is basically taking over the Democratic Party.
Is she mad, though? Is she mad at herself? She may be. I didn't think she was a stupid person.
But she does
until last night when she did that little stunt with the ripping.
She's not stupid, but Nancy Pelosi has some real impulse control problems. She is the first Speaker of the House of Representatives to have her words taken down by the House of Representatives because she was too personal in her attacks against the president, which were unfounded. That hadn't happened in over 50 years in the House of Representatives. She was the first. But this latest attempt embarrassed the House of Representatives in front of the world. The world was watching the president. He gave an inspirational, fantastic speech. And for her to have a temper tantrum, we don't allow that on the floor of the House of Representatives, and Nancy Pelosi is not above the rules of the House just because she is the Speaker of the House.
I just want to set the stage for people about what happened last night in the State of the Union speech versus what was said afterward by the Democrats, and I think putting some of the comments side by side is instructive. Check it out.
Your husband is back from deployment. He is here with us tonight, and we couldn't keep him waiting any longer.
It was a disgusting performance. Absolutely disgusting.
We'll soon be heading to the school of your choice.
Don't tell me what you've done for the black community, because you haven't done anything for the black community.
Rush Limbaugh is a virulent racist.
Aside from the fact that AOC can't pronounce the word virulent, this is where they came down. Every moment of emotion and patriotism and sacrificial concern was cast aside as a stunt in reality TV.
It was too beautiful. I mean, those moments you're celebrating Americans who did great things, and they want to take the president out so badly that they were sitting on their hands. I tried something different last night. I sat over on the Democratic side, which I've never done before for the State of the Union address, and the groans, the way that they're pointing at each other. Every time Kristen Sinema stood up and applauding, they were ostracizing her and they were heckling.
I was surprised she voted as she did today.
I'll tell you
she's a smarter politician.
When I first, that was a big mistake today.
That was sad for her.
When I first got to Congress, Barack Obama was the president. I went to the State of the Union address, never thought about boycotting, never thought about walking out, never thought about impeaching him. I was there. When I agreed, I stood up, I applauded. He was my president, even though I didn't vote for him.
Congressman, it looks like your Democrat colleagues have zero plans to stop investigating the president. Watch.
You said it's likely that your committee or some combination of committees will subpoena John Bolton. That's what you're saying.
Has the speaker signed off on it?
When will this happen?
I don't know.
I mean, Jerry Nadler just looks like a beaten man in that clip. But the Democrats are a one-trick pony now in Washington. They offer America only impeachment and investigations because they haven't been able to come together for an immigration plan, an infrastructure plan, anything that would actually impact the lives of the people of this great country.
If she can't sit there and act like a decent human being during a State of the Union speech, how is she going to march her white pantsuited self into the Oval Office and talk infrastructure?
Right, she can't, and she needs to relinquish the gavel, and the American voters have
She's got to retire. You know what I would say? You got to retire. If you can't even comport yourself at the State of the Union,
you've called for two people to resign, and it's only the A block.
Yeah, well,
the rest of the show, who knows who's going to get the ass before the show.
You guys are safe for right now. Congressman, thank you for being here. We're going to be following the censure push and all of this, so thank you for updating us on all of this tonight.
Boy, these people are delusional, and their racism, I mean, they literally, they racism, they literally wear it on their sleeves, and it's like they're taking something that I feel like was little, and they're trying to make it more than what it is. These people are not at least interested in being patriotic, upholding the Constitution, or anything. But we got an insight on how white men truly feel deep within their soul about white women, because that Make America Great Again, it's a lot up under that hat. You know, there's a lot. They want her ass barefoot and pregnant. See, this is that's why what I was saying on Twitter, white men are really displaying how they feel about the white woman, and they have been very quiet about that. And the first time that I've ever really picked up on them displaying how they really feel is with Sarah Palin. I never forget this. I was reading where this white man said, "Oh, damn, if McCain become president, you know, he already old and sick looking." He said if he died, there's a high possibility Sarah Palin would become president. And he said I would have to kill her. And the guy didn't waver. I was like, damn. And then the second time where I caught it is at the Cohen hearings, where, you know, he was accused of raping someone. And there's other stories of him doing things with women, and how the white man went against the white woman. And that spoke volumes. Me and KD were talking about that behind the scenes. I said, wow, this is a war. When will it get bigger and bigger? Because they're kind of secretive about these things. But one thing that Trump has the ability to do is bring something out of a person. And it's what they really corely feel. You know, the enemy now is wearing their feelings on their shoulders. And it shows you how that particular race of people, they can never be satisfied. There is nothing that is ever enough for them. So now what we will see, because the first video that I put up today was about the House cannot stand. It's divided. Okay, now in that divided house, they're going to be going for the juggler. To hell with the American people. You know, I'm going to stand firm. So right now the Republican Party feel quite smug in what they're doing. And the Democratic Party, you did it to your damn self. That's all we have to say about it. ADOS. Cut the check. That is it, and that is all. Render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.